Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're grateful that you can join us for another week. And Mom and I are super excited today. We are welcoming back Dennis J. Henson. He wrote the book Real Impact. And this is our series of 12. And today is the fifth one. And it is The Strangest Secret, is what we're going to listen to and then discuss. Did you want to give us a little bit of insight before we start, Dennis?
I think the story kind of tells itself, and we can discuss it afterward.
Okay, that sounds perfect then. I will just cue that up here and we will listen to it.
The Strangest Secret, summarized from a speech by Mrs. Diana Nightingale. In 1921, Earl Nightingale was born into a poor family in California. When he was 7, his father disappeared and his family moved into a tent in Long Beach's Tent City. At age 12, Earl witnessed the country struggling through the Great Depression. But he noticed that there were a few people achieving success. This puzzled him, and little Earl couldn't understand why some people were wealthy while others were poor. He often pondered, what's their secret? So the young boy made finding that secret his mission. He questioned many grown-ups, but could never get a straight answer. Searching the Long Beach Public Library, Earl spent many hours reading and soon formed the habit of reading every day. He read books on a variety of subjects. His mother, who also loved to read, taught him the value of knowledge. She frequently said, knowledge is everything, and everything you want to know has been written by someone somewhere. Then she explained to him, no single book has all the answers. Young Earl pondered his mother's words, but still thought there must be a book somewhere that could answer his question, and he was determined to find it. And even though his initial searches came up empty, he never stopped looking for the secret of success. In the winter of 1941, at age 17, Earl joined the United States Marine Corps and was stationed in Hawaii. There, the weather was warm and the scenery beautiful. One Sunday morning, Earl was startled by a loud explosion at his station on the USS Arizona. Then, in rapid succession, many other explosions followed. As the ship beneath him trembled, a message boomed over the ship's intercom. All hands, man your battle stations. This is not a drill. Suddenly, there was chaos, death, and destruction all around. The pounding continued until Earl was blown from the battered ship into the waters of Pearl Harbor. This seriously injured Marine witnessed wave after wave of Japanese planes scarfing and bombing the U.S. fleet. He could only watch as the mighty battleship Arizona succumbed to the barrage and disappeared beneath the sea. Over 3,000 lives were lost that day, and 1,700 were from the USS Arizona. Earl was one of only 12 Marines on that ship who survived the attack. Therefore, he believed his life had been spared for a purpose. He committed what remained of it to find and fulfill his destiny. During his long recovery and while still in the Corps, Earl volunteered to help at a local radio station. He enjoyed the excitement of being on the air. After the war, he found employment writing and presenting daily programs at a small station. As his radio career developed, Earl became a celebrity as the voice of Sky King, a popular weekly national radio drama. Even with his growing success, he continued to be haunted by those questions. Why are some people rich while others remain poor? And what is the secret to success? Then one day, while browsing a small bookstore, Nightingale noticed a book with an interesting title. Skimming through its pages, he realized that he was looking at the book he'd been searching for since childhood, which contained the answers to his questions. The more he read, the more excited he became. He later recalled, then it hit me like a bolt. It was as though I had been immersed in a bright light. Re-examining his discovery, he thought, this is so simple. I've seen this in many forms in other books, but I had no idea what I was reading. Earl had simply not been ready to accept or understand this most potent principle. But now it all made sense. Each cog fell perfectly into place, and he realized that the 6 words in front of him contained the secret of success. people become what they think about. Closing the book, he reread the title, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. What an amazing concept. Earl could barely contain his excitement. He couldn't wait to share his discovery with everyone, so he wrote down his thoughts and recorded himself reading them. Earl quit his steady job and embarked on a new journey using his newly found principles. In a short time, he landed a new position that paid more than twice his old salary. Then, using his knowledge, he set new and more significant goals, increasing his income. When Nightingale was 35, he purchased an insurance company where, in addition to broadcasting, he trained and motivated a sales force. Reaping the rewards of his hard work and success, he scheduled a short vacation. Before departing, he left instructions for his sales associates to listen to his recording. Upon his return, he learned that his salespeople were so excited by his concepts that they wanted a copy of the tape. So Earl asked a record company to record The Strangest Secret on an album. Shortly after that, he was surprised to be presented with a golden record. His album sold more than 1 million copies, with no advertising or promotion. His next move was to start promoting The Strangest Secret. His successful efforts gave birth to a new media industry, personal development. Earl propelled himself from obscurity into one of the world's most recognizable voices and names using his principles. His radio program became the most widely heard daily in America, Mexico, Canada, Australia, Guam, the Bahamas, New Zealand, Puerto Rico, and over 30 overseas countries.
Wow.
Nightingale wrote and recorded over 7,000 radio, 250 audio, and many video and television programs during his lifetime. We become what we think about most of the time, and that's the strangest secret. Earl Nightingale.
Wonderful. I love that story. Well, I love all your stories, to be honest. I think because they're so inspirational, and I think there's so much about the knowledge in books. So do you want to talk a little bit about this one?
Yes, I think it's interesting that at a very young age, he determined that he wanted to know an answer, and he made it a life search to continually look until he found it. And then when he did find it, he wanted to share with other people. So I think that's one of the reasons that he was so successful, that he wanted to help a lot of people, and he has. As a young man, I used to go to garage sales, and I found all kind of wonderful things. Every Saturday I go to garage sales, and I found this set of cassette tapes. It was beautiful. Each cassette tape was bound in a its own container, and it looked like leather, and then they all fit into this like a bookcase. And I think I probably paid $1 or $2 for it, but it was all of the work of Earl Nightingale, which was just amazing. And I probably still have it somewhere in my attic. I'm not sure where. I put all my cassette tapes away, but I don't even know if they'll play anymore. But I learned an awful lot. I just love his voice. You know, he has, you know, if you haven't heard him, you go on YouTube and I'll find him and listen to him. He sounds like God. He has a deep, rich, kind of like Paul Harvey, but it's unique. And you'll want to continue to listen when you first hear him. What most people didn't realize is, though, when he was injured, he was severely injured, and he had a hard time walking, severe limp, you know, and used a cane to get around. Most people don't know that because they just heard him on the radio or saw him, you know, on a video or something. But yeah, he had it really hurt him bad. It's a wonder that he made it through that attack at Pearl Harbor. But he thought, because he came so close to death, that he must have been spared for some reason. And he worked for the rest of his life to try to fulfill that. But that was commendable.
Mhm. Very much so. Yeah, and I think it's really interesting about when you're thinking about something, that's kind of how your life is. And I think that's so profound because I think often when we kind of get into a little bit of a funk, we allow our minds to go there and keep us kind of trapped and tethered to that negative thought. And I think when we can switch it around and think the positive, like, no, that doesn't make our life all roses and sunshine necessarily right away, but it certainly moves us, I think, in the right direction when we're thinking in a more positive way, which is one thing I love about your book. And, being able to read it every day is to have those positive um, impacts on that to change your mindset.
It does. It makes you think positive. You're right. You know,
Yeah, that's one of the purposes of the book is to give people daily inspiration. That's in the title. So not only do you have to decide what you want in order to do the magic formula, you first have to decide, okay, what do I really want? And you have to develop a burning desire and a belief that you're going to be able to get there. And then you read something every day that moves you in that direction. And what it does is it reminds you every day of what direction you're heading in. It's like putting a rudder on a boat, so that every day it realigns you and guides you to reach your ultimate goal. If you have a great ultimate goal, that's good for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's hard to know what your goal is, but I agree with you there is you have to have that focus on, even if it's just something, even if it's a little goal to get to until you figure out what your bigger all around plan is to impact the world. But I think, just showing up as yourself and just finding that little goal to look at is a step in the right direction, right? What do you feel about that?
Well, I used to have getaways in Mexico, and we'd bring a lot of people together. And one of the things that I had them do was list 20 things that they really loved, that they would, if I could just do that, it'd just be wonderful. List 20 things. And then I had them list 20 things that they were really good at. What are you capable of? What's the gifts that God gave you? And then I had them prioritize both lists and take the top 5 in each list and then put them together and say, which ones match the best? So which of the top 5 that you want to do and the top 5 that you're really good at, and which one comes to the top? And that should help you decide what you're good at and what direction that you should be moving in, because you wouldn't have been given those gifts for no reason.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. I was going to say, I think too that if you go with life as you're moving along in life, and if you have something that is on the downside, but you try to make it as positive as you can, the determination to succeed far outdoes anything else. So when you step into the next thing in life, like when you have children, you want them to succeed. So you push all your energies into that and determination that they will become something that makes them happy, right? And I think that's the same thing as what you're saying in the book is take each struggle as you come to them. Not that children are a struggle, but it's a determination for something in the end to be good, right? And so to me, like anything, any stepping stones I had over my lifetime, it was saying, no, don't give up. There's something else out there. Don't give up. Go reach for the stars because they're reachable if you go after them. And that's what you're saying in your book.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think it's so true because, I heard something somewhere that was to the effect of if you could do, like, think of something that you would do if there was no obstacles and you could make, as much money as you wanted, would you do it for free? Like you could do it for free, but there's no obstacle.
Goodness.
What would you do? And I
Right.
think that really is along the lines of what you're saying with those lists, which I think is a great thing because it hones in on where you really can get that focus in and be more
Yeah.
on the path to that. So I think that's
Yeah.
a good tip that you gave everybody there.
Very much.
Some homework.
Another thing that you could do, Jim Rohn had me do this back in, in the 70s, is list things that you want. Just sit down and write down what he said. Write down 100 things you want, and everybody thought, well, that's going to be easy, but it's not. You get to 20 or 25, and then you can't think of anything else. So
You're repeating it.
I think I did like 51, and I was real proud of myself, but it was only halfway there. He wanted 100. So years later, I was looking at some of my books, and I thought, well, what is this? And it was the manual from that time I spent with Jim Rohn, and I opened it up, and there was that list. And I thought, well, I wonder how many of these, if I got any of them. Out of the 51, I had 50 of them at that time.
Wow.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? So
Wow.
what if that works? What if you could just sit down and write, here's what I want, and then time will bring them to you.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's exactly the case, but I know this. If you don't know what you want, it's like the story of Aladdin. When Aladdin rubbed the lamp, the genie came out and said, it's magic. I'm going to give you 3 wishes, but the first, you have to tell me what is your wish. So that's why there's a lamp on the front of the book. The book really won't do you much good unless you know what you want. If you have some destination you're trying to get to, the book will help you get there.
It's interesting. We do a thing each year. It's called 101 Wishes, and you do it before the new year starts. And then, you put it away, and then you pull it up at the end of the year to see what you actually accomplished during that year. And it's interesting because every year there's something you go, yep, did that, yep, did that, yep, did that. So I guess you're already implanting the thought at that time of what you want down the road, right? You really are that's exactly what you're saying here. So,
yes. Yeah, you're right. It's planting a seed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just going to talk about that. And it's funny because I periodically read mine throughout the year because I usually keep it tucked in the back of my journal. And so it's really interesting to me when you go back at the end of the year. Sometimes I'll check them off as they come true, but I find that generally speaking, I have 15 to 20 every year that happen for me.
Yeah.
It's interesting, just these little tips and tricks that people can do to move themselves towards their end goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't give up.
No, don't give up. And learning, like I love that because I am a lifelong learner. I think it interests me to learn something new every day. And, I have to say with our podcast journey, it's been very interesting because we didn't know what we were doing. And so everything that we do is
a lesson,
and we're teaching ourselves how to do it. Right. So when we started, when I look back at some of the first episodes that we did to kind of where we've got to today, it's like, oh yeah, we've grown so much because we didn't know what we were doing. Now we're interviewing wonderful people and getting these great ideas out there, learning how to do some, things on Canva. And so to me, it's great because it's always making our minds work. And I think that's so important when we're trying to go and strive towards these dreams.
Good.
So, yeah. So can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Sure. Go to go to realimpactbook.com. And at the top, it says contact us. Click there. It has my email, phone number. I'm easy to get in touch with if you are interested in a speaking engagement, a radio interview, TV, podcast, or if you just need to talk with someone. I'm easy to get in touch with. And while you're there, look at the website, realimpactbook.com. It's an interesting site. Click on the different links. There's games there where you can win prizes. You can get a free copy of the book by scrolling to the bottom and clicking on podcast attendee. And then there's 3 gifts there when you click on that. So we've tried to make it interactive and fun, educational. So I hope you'll visit it and visit it often, because we have something new every month.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing. Yeah, I just was on it this morning, actually, seeing that there was a new free book. So I was like, oh, cool.
There'll be a new one in June or whenever. The next month, every month there's a new book.
That's wonderful.
Beautiful.
And very gracious, and I think that's so, like, your mission is really clear to us, is that you want to be giving in this way and gracious this way, that you're just inspiring people every single day, and reading these really intuitive books that are leading people to live their most authentic and most inspirational life. So really appreciate all the hard work you do with that. So
Yeah, you bet. Yes.
if you had a final thought to leave with everybody, what would it be?
If you want to help yourself, help someone else. So if you want to be uplifted, think of a nice book that you just read and you think, well, a lot of people would get a lot out of this. Go to Amazon, find the book, leave it a 5-star rating, and say, I love this book because. You will have made the author's day. I mean, they'll be thrilled to death to get a 5-star rating, and you will have guided other people to find something that will be good and inspirational and fun to read for them. Like
Right.
my wife and I love to watch series, on either YouTube or whatever series that there is, Netflix. And when we see one that's fun, we bring it and share it with everyone at the office, and then they do the same to us. They say, "Oh,
Right.
we got to watch this." So sharing with other people is a good thing.
Wonderful. That's a great message. So we do really appreciate you being on with us. We look forward to doing the rest of the series with you and sharing your wonderful stories that you've done this research and written for everybody to be inspired. So thank you so much for joining us again today, Dan.
You betcha. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you both for having me.
And everybody else, tune into the next one.